Hi guys, it's nighttime here, and I hope that you'll forgive me because I'm recording on the floor of my bathroom because all the other rooms are taken up by kids or my husband has some stuff that he is doing, and I really wanted to get my thoughts out in a video and make this video available on YouTube for you because I'm here to talk about one of my favorite social media mavens. Her name is Clery. Laura has been a staple in the Facebook world for quite a while, and I'm here today to talk about her marriage, and the fact that Laura and her husband Steven are putting everything out there. And what I believe is a really brave and conscientious way. I think that many of us can relate to some of their struggles, especially if you've ever struggled in a relationship. I think probably 80 to 90% of us have been through some of this SHIT. They are not alone, and they're putting it out there for all of us to see, and I want to go along on the journey with them. I want to say that I'm hoping for the best for them. I really support the attempts they're making to try to reconcile whatever they can amongst themselves, within themselves, and amongst each other. They're an amazing couple in many ways. They've brought a lot of comedy and joy and happiness to my own life. Watching them go through so much, but always being brave, being honest, being funny. And I'm making this video all about them. I hope that at the end you will check out their YouTube pages and their social media if you haven't already, and get to know more about them.
Welcome, friends. Tonight, I want to introduce you to Laura Clery and Steven Hilton, a social media couple that's garnered millions of fans on both Facebook and YouTube. I'm here to talk about them because I'm really feeling so intrigued and grateful that they're being so open and honest and putting it out in the spotlight for everyone to see and talk about. It's very different from many of the stories that I've covered over the past several months. For example, I really feel like the Duggar family, and even yesterday I put out some videos about Slay with Dre McCrae. These are two online social media influencing type families who were doing the best they could to cover up some of what was going on behind the scenes, some of the unraveling that was happening in order to protect maybe their brand or even just their dignity in certain ways. And yet here we have a very popular and famous couple coming out and saying, we're going through some SHIT. We're going through a really hard time, and we don't know where it's going to take us.
And I'm okay. Shit really hit the fan with us.
We don't know what the end result is going to be, but we're here and we're sharing it with you. I find this absolutely courageous. It's amazing that they can be so vulnerable with us. And I want to share a little bit more about the family. Steven and Laura first came onto my radar when Laura started posting these comedic videos on Facebook. So Laura Clery is a comedian. She was living in Los Angeles. She met her husband, I guess it was her boyfriend at the time. They started living with each other, and they met at a party where they were attracted to each other or pulled toward one another because neither one of them was drinking, and everyone around them was having a drink of alcohol. They both recognized in each other that they were AA members. Because neither one of them was drinking at the party, they were drawn towards one another, and they realized that they both attended AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous. Both Steven and Laura had past issues with addiction, having to do with alcohol and I think drugs as well. They were trying to remain sober, and they really stood out at this LA party where everybody was getting smashed. They ended up talking to each other, and Laura later makes a video reenacting how they met, which is super cute and funny. Laura's Facebook page started out with her posting videos of a character named Helen. Helen was essentially Laura with a morphed face, and the whole bit was that Helen was super attracted to Steven, almost obsessed with him. Helen would go around trying to get Steven's attention, break into his house, spend time with him, and Steven played a guy who had no idea who Helen was and didn't want to be around her. Helen was gross, and she passed gas and made a lot of weird statements. And it was funny in its own way, but I think Laura really came into her own a couple years later after she and Steven got married and they had their first child. His name is Alfie. After Alfie was born, Steven and Laura's Facebook page became a lot more dedicated to sharing pictures and photos of their family and talking about like holistic living, staying sober, all the life lessons they've learned. And Laura went on to write a book and create which ended up selling out really well and making them a good amount of money. Meanwhile, Steven is a musical artist and he's featured on Laura's Facebook page, but he also has some of his own social media in which he shares a lot of his music. Steven has a British accent and he's really funny in his own right, although there are times that he pulls away a little bit from doing some of the videos, and Laura talks about that at times, that Steven isn't as interested in doing the social media videos anymore. Laura also came up with this amazing character called Pamela Pumpkin, and she marketed all these videos on Facebook that were of Pamela Pumpkin exercising, dancing around with these great lyrics and funny people exercising around her. It was a great character for Laura, and Steven participated frequently in the videos as well. As time went on, Laura got pregnant for a second time, and she gave birth to her second child, a daughter named Poppy. Following that birth, Laura was super open and honest on her Facebook page about dealing with postpartum depression and everything that she went through as a mom. This really endeared her to people, especially people like me, because I love being a mom. I love my kids so much and I want to be the best mom possible, but sometimes I just don't feel like I'm doing a very good job. And Laura really spoke to me about how hard some of it is. You don't want to admit that it's hard, but it is. And you often feel shameful in your feelings of wanting some time to yourself or needing some time to heal after you've given birth or when you're sick and your kids are all over you. And Laura was just so open and honest about her struggles and everything that she was going through as a mom. Shortly after Poppy was born, Laura put out a video that just struck a major chord with special needs families throughout the world, not just in the United States. It turns out that Laura's older son, Alfie, had been diagnosed with autism. The video that Laura made was so heartfelt and spoke to so many of us moms who are mothers to children with special needs. Let me share just a snippet of it with you now, and I encourage you to go check out her Facebook page. The link to Laura's Facebook page, her YouTube channel, and Steven's YouTube channel will all be directly under this video for you to check out. But I want to share part of what Laura had to say about her son with you now.
Still strange to say. I suppose because we only recently got the diagnosis. I always knew he was quirky. I mean, obviously, look at his parents. But just after his second birthday, we noticed something more. He hadn't said mama in a while, or dada, or papa, or milk, or shoes, or grandma. The words he once knew were suddenly gone, or on the back burner for some reason I still will never understand. Creative, curious, and affectionate. He has a hunger to learn and connect and explore. He sees the world in a different way than most, and what a gift that is. Nothing about him is bad or undesirable. Well, I suppose the high-pitched screams and occasional bites I could live without. But it seems that he sees the world in such an intense way that perhaps it becomes overwhelming at times. And so how can I help you, Alfie? One day he'll tell me. Thankfully, the regression only lasted a short time. He has since regained his words and many more, and he looks at us and for us and connects with us in an incredible, unique way.
Laura's words about Alfie made me feel less alone in my own journey as a special needs mom. And I know so many families and moms were clamoring onto her page and saying, "This is amazing. Thank you so much for speaking out. Thank you for putting yourself out there and putting Alfie out there and helping us feel less alone in our own journeys." Laura has so many fans, and so does Steven for sure, but in many ways, Laura is the star of her Facebook page. Laura went on to write a second book. She sold a lot more merchandise after her video about Alfie really went viral. I really applaud her for all the vulnerable posts and videos she's made over the years. Many people struggle with sobriety and depression and relationship issues, and this is something that she's shared really openly and honestly on her pages. So I was certainly surprised to see that Stephen Hilton's YouTube page was popping up with several very sincere videos in which Stephen talks about hitting rock bottom. I'm going to leave a link to Steven's YouTube channel under this video, and I hope you will click on it and check it out because I cannot do justice to the power of what both Steven and Laura are sharing publicly for all of us to watch. And I feel like I can't accurately help you understand how emotional and touching all of it is when you watch it on their pages. It's certainly heartbreaking. There's no denying that, but I think it really rings true to what humanity is all about. The ups and the downs exist. It's not some beautiful world full of perfection. And Steven's videos really open up discussion for what it means to be in a long-term relationship, and the fact that there are going to be times when you don't feel as comfortable or you don't feel as challenged or you're not 100% happy. And when the kids come along and they demand a lot of your attention, and you have a kid who has some special needs, so you know that you're going to be indebted to taking care of them for a little bit longer, you're going through some challenges, some hard times, and whether or not you can pull through that situation is incumbent on so many factors. It's not just about your strength, how much money you have. There's just a lot of complicated issues that go on in our lives. These people are famous and they have money, and they're still dealing with many of the issues that you and I will deal with on an everyday. I love that about them. I'm so glad that they're sharing, and I'm rooting for them all the way.
The hardest video I've ever had to make so far. You know, me and Laura's thing is that we never sugarcoat anything, and we're always like brutally honest about stuff. And so I got to stop the bullshit. I got to be brutally honest with you guys. Why I made a video being like, I don't even know why I made that video. It was so not what's going on, and I feel I owe it to you guys to tell you what's really going on. And it's not good. I've just come from a long conversation with Laura about separating, and I feel kind of destroyed and then hopeful and then destroyed and then okay. And then, have you guys been through this? Do you have any advice? When does it start feeling like, I feel like separated couples, you see them getting on and having family stuff together. How long does that take before that seems okay? Do you co-parent? How do you do it? How long till it starts feeling normal? Or it's been one thing after the other, and this is just one in a week. This has all happened. But we had a mature conversation about it, which I'm pleased about. We made some sort of concrete steps of things we're going to do. Oh man, I keep getting really sad. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fine, and then, oh, just really sad. We said today our two biggest productions are Alfie and Poppy, and
Alright guys, so it was a hard video to make. It's talking about a lot of issues that are difficult to discuss. Addiction, relationships falling apart and coming back together, having children with special needs, dealing with a partner's issues, mental health issues, depression, autism, ADHD. But there's so many of us who are going through a lot of these things. And I'm grateful that they are sharing this so openly. It is hard to watch at times, but I'm grateful that they're doing it. There are many of us that could use this kind of camaraderie to know that we're not alone. We all struggle. Laura and Stephen are not alone. I feel very lucky for everything that I have in my life, and I feel very lucky to have my husband and my children. But it has not always been easy. It's a journey, kind of like a roller coaster that goes up and down. Sometimes we drift apart and come back together. We have been traveling around the world together for the past many years, and there were times I thought to myself, I'm gonna take my kids and go home. It has not always been easy, and I can relate to many of the feelings that Laura expressed in some of her videos, and then also what Stephen's going through. It's really hard when you're dealing with depression. We may not be exactly the same, and I don't know what the future holds for Laura and Stephen, but I'm gonna be there watching them and sending them good thoughts and letting them know, like in their comments or whatever, that they're not the only ones who go through things like this. And I wish them all the very best. If you're one of my longtime subscribers and you're listening to this video and you're going through difficult times, please know that you are not alone. I'm someone who has been blessed a million times over in my life, especially with my husband and the life that I get to lead, coming from a very difficult background to what I live now is kind of amazing. But it's not always easy. Even when you have countless blessings, there are times when it can be overwhelming and it can get really hard to keep going. It's wonderful to know that we are not all alone. And this is all kind of a part of the human experience. It's so different from what we saw on my other show that I cover a lot of the time, 19 Kids and Counting, the Duggar family. This idea of perfection, this idea of happily ever after. Maybe it does exist for some people, but my happily ever after looks different than what Disney showed me when I was growing up. And that's okay. There can be ups and downs, and we can still come back together and be a wonderful family.
I hope you enjoyed learning more about Laura and Stephen. I really hope that you'll check out their social media pages and follow along with me. I'm hoping for a positive resolution, whatever it may look like, for this family. I'm off to bed. I hope you take some time to head down your own rabbit hole.